LC 258.
258.
258, need you en route to 123 3rd Avenue, 123 3rd Avenue. Suspicious circumstance, a maroon Grand Marquis is parked on the side of the road for some time now. It's occupied by a male subject that appears to be scanning the neighborhood.
258, I copy.
I'm Lieutenant Craig DeZarmo, Communications Supervisor with the Lake Charles Police Department. Our officers handle over 12,000 suspicious person calls or vehicle calls each year reported by the community. That's an average of over 30 such calls per day. Although we may say a suspicious person or vehicle, it is in fact the behavior of the person or the vehicle that is suspicious. It might be that person parked in a vehicle on the side road late at night scanning a neighborhood, or an unfamiliar person or persons walking through a neighborhood and into back or side yards, or someone being forcibly taken into a vehicle which may arouse someone's suspicion. But what may be suspicious to one person may not be suspicious to another. Over 60% of these suspicious circumstance calls reported each year end with a final disposition of no criminal activity found during the investigation of the call, or the suspicious person vehicle activity was not located.
Afternoon, sir. Corporal Markham, Lake Charles Police Department. We got a call that you've been sitting out here for a while?
Yeah, my car broke down. I'm waiting for my dad to pick me up.
What seems to be the problem with it?
I think the battery might be dead.
You want to go ahead and pop the hood? Go ahead and step out of the vehicle. Maybe we can take a look at it up there. Maybe it's just a loose connection.
Sure thing.
Law enforcement has been questioned for stopping individuals for no reason at all, when in fact a suspicious activity report may have been received from a concerned citizen regarding that person being stopped. Thus far this year, one police district alone in our city has recorded over 600 suspicious circumstance calls. Some of these calls include suspicious persons inside a vacant home, someone reportedly stealing items from the side of a residence, and a subject wearing a ski mask prowling around a home.
Suspicious circumstances calls vary day by day. One day it might be a call of a strange person walking through a neighborhood that residents have never seen before, or it might be a vehicle slowly driving through several times, or someone sees an odd activity occurring in or around a school or a business.
We handle these types of calls day in and day out. Though they may be similar regarding the type of call, being a suspicious circumstance call, each and every one is different. You never know what to expect because everyone perceives suspicion differently.
Depending on the neighborhood, people walking late at night in one neighborhood may not be suspicious, but in other neighborhoods it might be. And that is something police officers must deal with every day when handling such calls. And someone being stopped in a neighborhood might question why they're being stopped, when in fact the officer is most likely responding to a call regarding that person's suspicious activity in that neighborhood.
Police officers don't stop individuals or vehicles just to stop and harass. Again, we receive calls or we've received information in reference to crime in that particular area during a particular time of day or night, suspicious activity in a particular area day or night, and we concentrate in those areas. That's why the officer 90% of the time will stop and further investigate.
We may have a lot of burglaries in that area at that time. The officer's going to stop that person, check them out, see if they live in the area. But that's our job, to stop people and check them, see why they're out at such a late hour and why they're walking that neighborhood.
We're really just trying to do the very best that we can by our police standards that are led by Don Dixon, that says that we are going to be the best. And when we get out there, we try as hard as we can to ensure that our community is as safe as it is. Sometimes our information is inaccurate. And when the public understands that while we are police officers, we're not perfect, our agenda is to try to make that neighborhood safe and return it back to a safe place. Once we understand that we may have the wrong person, and once we understand that that information may have gotten crossed up somehow, because the human equation does allow sometimes for mistakes, that we move on and we're trying to get to the right person, to make sure again that the neighborhood is safe and that caller's complaint is addressed.
And the policemen on the street that are responding to these calls don't know what they're getting into. We don't know what it could be. It could merely be someone in a neighborhood reporting that they see something that's awry, and we respond to check it out, to get to the bottom of it and see what it is. But we never know what we're walking into.
We have to ensure that we are safe, and to do that we have to keep control of our scene, and to do that we have to make sure that we give loud verbal commands and make sure that the person complies. As long as someone complies with us, everything's going to go smooth. There's going to be no mishaps, and everybody's going to go home safe at the end of the day.
You may feel like the officer's being rude. That is just simply the officer being stern in his orders or his commands to control the scene.
We train our police officers to a level that no one else trains. What we don't do the best job at is training our public on why we do the things that we do. Hopefully through this video we'll be able to show the public why sometimes we may not shake someone's hand. There's a reason for it. We may not have time to explain that to the person that we're not shaking his hand, but there's an absolute reason for it, or why we may position ourselves in a stance, or park our car in a way, or maybe not be able to communicate with you and slap you on your back and say, hey John, it's real good to see you, because we're fixing to walk around a corner where we've been called where there may be a man with a gun and we don't have time to be polite. It is solely and strictly because of hypervigilance.
It is best for everyone involved, for those who are stopped by the police, to comply. In compliance, whether you agree or disagree with the reason that you're stopped, whether you agree or disagree that you ran the red light or that you were speeding or whatever the case may be, to not comply on the side of the road with the police officer is not the best route to take.
The sooner the citizen cooperates with the officer, the sooner he can be on his way and the sooner the officer can be on his way. There's a reason that the officer stopped the person. And if for whatever reason the citizen has concern about the officer's behavior or believes the stop was unlawful, by all means, you have a means to have that looked at through the Lake Charles Police Department's Internal Affairs Division.
If the citizen or the individual that's being stopped cooperate, then the deal would go a lot quicker, smoother, the information would be obtained. The officer will also, most of the time, tell you the reason why you're being stopped in that particular area during that particular time once he's obtained all of his information. But with you resisting, then now it puts the officer on heightened alert as to why. Is there a reason for this particular resistance?
I'm Chief Donald Dixon with the Lake Charles Police Department. In the world of policing, there is no such thing as a routine call. Every day, our officers respond to calls for service from the community, not knowing what they may encounter when arriving at the scene. And regardless of what type of call it may be, or the circumstances, it is our sworn duty to respond and investigate. Whether it is a dispatch call from a concerned citizen or a self-initiated encounter by one of our officers in the field, the person being encountered either complies with our instructions or does not comply. When I look at some of the tragic encounters between citizens and law enforcement in our nation, it is because of non-compliance by individuals that leads to tragedy. If you simply comply with our officers' instructions, I assure you the vast majority of the time, everyone wins. That means that both parties walk away and no one is harmed. At times, it may seem on the surface to the person being stopped or to the public that we are harassing them for no reason. We only ask you to trust your police officers and comply with their instructions to eliminate that perception. Obviously, we do not live in a perfect world, and in law enforcement, we may not always do something perfectly. After 44 years of law enforcement, I have seen my share of tragedy. Let's work together to prevent tragedy, and I hope this video will give you a better understanding of our perspective when responding to a call.
So the next time you see an officer stop with someone on the streets of our city, it is very possible they are handling a suspicious circumstance call.